Hello guys, welcome back to our channel. The Water Resources Bill is indeed causing rancor in the House, as the House of Rep and also National Assembly have been divided into several units simply because some senators are beginning to speak up, others are beginning to also back up the water bill, and of course they're also demanding the federal government to give them the go-ahead to see if they can do the needful. But before we go into the newspaper and further analysis, we would like you to subscribe to our channel by clicking on the red subscribe button. Beside it, you will see a bell notification icon. Please go ahead, click on it to get notified as soon as we update our channel on YouTube. Well, the leadership of the National Assembly may seek the support of the federal government for possible amendment of the controversial water resource bill in a fresh bid to address the concerns shown by Nigerians opposed to this bill. The bill is currently being debated in the House of Representatives. Reliable sources in the two legislative chambers debunked the claims in some quarters that the federal lawmakers are sworn to go ahead with passing the bill in spite of the uproar it generating across the country. Findings shows that the controversies being generated by the bill is already tearing the National Assembly apart, with the House of Representatives Committee on Water Resources already sharply divided on whether to go ahead with the passage of the bill. Sources said that the last meeting of the committee ended abruptly, with some members informing the chairman that their constituencies are strongly opposed to the bill and as such will no longer work for its passage unless certain amendments were made. Well, it was also gathered that the chairman of the committee, Honorable Sada Soli, continued to play down members' opposition to the bill, insisting on the need for the legislature to pass this bill. The disagreement over the bill, it was gathered, has spread beyond the committee into the chambers of both the upper and the lower houses, that's the Senate and the House of Representatives. Let's continue. A source said many members of the House are speaking up against the bill, claiming their constituencies are against it. I can tell you that one or two caucuses in the House have written formally to oppose the bill. Even many senators have added their voices to the opposition to the bill. That is not to say that there are no lawmakers supporting the bill. Many are. In fact, the chairman of the House of Representatives Committee on Water Resources, Honorable Soli, is one of the ardent supporters of the bill, and so are many other lawmakers. To say the truth, the bill has divided the National Assembly, and unless caution is applied in handling it, chances that it will be the biggest trouble for this night assembly are now looking very likely. Our respondent also gathered that the committee has been unable to agree as to whether a public hearing should be held for the controversial bill, while opponents of the bill are suggesting a public hearing as a way to determine how acceptable the bill is to Nigerians. Proponents of the bill are insisting that a public hearing was done for the bill by the 8th Assembly and so unnecessary. This disagreement, like many others over the controversial bill, has spilled into the larger House across party lines, according to the sources. As a result of the inability of the lawmakers to agree on what to do with the bill, with the leadership of the National Assembly unwilling to risk the crisis it is capable of foisting on the hallowed chambers, it was actually gathered that the Nass, that's National Assembly, may, as a way out of the current problem, approach the federal government for understanding on the need for the bill to be subjected to some amendments so as to make it more acceptable to angry lawmakers and other Nigerians opposed to its passage. That way, we will be able to still pass it and please everyone, our source said. The nation further gathered that the leadership of the two chambers may have discussed the controversy being generated by the bill and resolved that it is needless. Fears that the federal legislatures may openly reject the bill to the embarrassment of the presidency is also said to be the top on the list of reasons why Nass, that's National Assembly, may appeal to the federal government to allow the bill go through some amendment. The federal government may recall the bill and amend it after discussion with the leadership of the National Assembly, a source said. Don't forget that this is the same bill that one of the lawmakers said it was already sacrosanct, that it was a done deal, they will pass it. And now when they talked about public hearing, one of them said, look, why don't we, we're talking about Nigerians, right? And this bill is meant for Nigerians, okay? It's meant for their lands, it's meant for their water, it's meant for their livelihood, their ancestral land, their ancestral water. Why don't you allow stakeholders to go, let there be a public hearing, let the stakeholders decide what they want to do with that which concerns them. Some of these guys who are actually proponents of this bill, those who have been accepting and proposing that this water bill be passed into law, are saying it's not necessary, that after all, there was a public hearing in the first instance, and for that reason, it's waste of time and energy and money and all that, waste of time and energy, that they should just quickly pass it into law. And of course, it is already gazetted. In fact, they were even telling Nigerians it was a done deal. Not until some of them now realized, look, some of the southern senators now realized when they felt the impact and the anger in their constituency where they were coming from. This one's reminded them, look, except we are not the one that put you there. We are representing us. A time will come, we'll not even hear you. When you finish passing that bill, you come back to this constituency and remember that all of a sudden that which belongs to the south have been given out arbitrarily just due to your negligence or due to your I don't want trouble and all that. It kind of generated a lot. And now, if this is not properly handled, just imagine the Hello Chamber. I'm talking about the upper and lower chamber, the Green House, the House of Representatives, and the National Assembly, divided not in party lines, but in these particular lines. Where look, but that's how it should be, really. We shouldn't be taking parties first. We should take the constituency that put you there first. You are first representing your constituency before your party. Party is just a platform through which your constituency puts you and to put you into the house. So when you begin to take your party, you begin to divide yourself on party lines or begin to carry your party first before your constituency, then you have done your constituency great harm. Don't forget, after this whole thing, after 4 years, if you're not being re-elected, you're going back to that same constituency you have neglected. So for all reasons, they have every right to say, look, we can't go back and pass this into law because our constituency rejected. I will say kudos to Southerners, kudos to Nigerians who have decided that, look, I will call our senators into order, call them to order because they need to do the needful. Because after now, when it's passed into law, our lands are in trouble. Okay, there's some strong amendment now. The leadership of the law chambers are now looking at it and look, while here there may be an urgency for this bill to be passed to law, but the people of Nigerians, and mostly those from the southern Nigeria, which this bill is going to affect negatively, are saying we do not want it. So it's a case of the voice, the people against those who want to take their lands and their waters. So now, what is wrong with public hearing? This whole on a fine day, such bills should undergo public hearing. Let the stakeholders, let their voice be heard. Directly bring it open. Let Nigerians talk. You to amaze you what Nigerians will say. Nigerians don't want that bill to be passed to law. Okay, maybe those who the bill favors may want it, but the vast majority of those whose land and whose waterways will be affected do not want the bills to be passed to law. So I wonder what they want to adjust. They're looking forward to amendment. One thing I know, over time we've observed, a typical case of Imo State. Let's take a case study of Imo State, where the lawmakers had agreed and they amended, they brought the bill and passed it into law, only for it to be gazetted according to them. And they found out that there were some pages that were not inclusive as at the time they passed that bill to law, that was already inculcated and duly signed. The question is, how did those pages find their way in? So when they say they're going to amend it, Nigerians and lawmakers representing the people of the southern part of Nigeria should be very careful, so that at the end of the day, when they finish amending it, they will not gazette the ones the average Nigerians do not want, and put them to not pass into law, and then that becomes sacrosanct. But I also feel that some of these things that are pardon bills now, I will call it pardon bills, should also be subject to criminal law. Because it's becoming very terrible that lawmakers will pass bills and they will pad it. and it just slide. It shouldn't slide. Any bill that has been padded, whoever or whatever or whoever elements or yes, a scrupulous element that made that thing to happen should be taken, should be brought to book and probably jailed, because that is criminal. But that's where we're going to wrap it up. What's your take on what is happening in the House? Obviously, the southern senators are beginning to rise to the occasion because, of course, their constituency is beginning to put hot fire in their legs. Let's meet in the comment section. Let's interact. What do you think will come out of this? Do you think amendment will go through? Honestly, for me, I would say no. But in fact, we don't even want amendment at all. No amendment. Reject the bill outrightly. But let's meet in that comment section. What's your take? Do you think amendment will suffice, or do you think they would pass it into law, or do you think that